Hi, I'm Antonio Mora. We know authoritarian regimes are existential threats to the world and to their own people. On the largest possible scale, they were responsible for both world wars, for genocides in Mao's China, Stalin's Soviet Union, and Hitler's Germany. They undermine international institutions, enslave their own people, and threaten world peace even today. But now they're posing another major danger to individuals and economies around the world. How? In the way they're addressing or not addressing the outbreak of the novel coronavirus that's come to be known as COVID-19. China is trying to spin its reaction to the crisis by portraying itself as a global leader in the fight to control the virus. Chinese propaganda has hailed the country's response as a model for the world to follow. The country's authoritarian regime even has the gall to accuse democratic nations like the US and South Korea of moving too slowly to respond to the virus. The truth, on the other hand, is that its authoritarianism and lack of transparency is greatly to blame for the global epidemic we now face. The inherent fear that the Chinese have of a government that cracks down on dissent was a barrier to medical professionals speaking out in Wuhan as they became aware of the new virus. Those who tried to sound the alarm were silenced. And for the first crucial weeks, the Chinese government played down the threat posed, underreported the rapid spread of the outbreak, and withheld information about human-to-human transmission. The international community was forced to rely on China for much of what was known about COVID-19. Even today, after China has chosen to cooperate with global health authorities, it's not clear the data provided is complete or accurate. The communist regime is also trying to trumpet its authoritarian measures to contain the virus as a testament to the efficiency and strength of its government and its hardline president Xi Jinping. Again, the truth is that by the time the Chinese imposed the largest quarantine in world history and started cooperating with international health officials, it was too late to stop the spread. The most it could do was slow it down. But the government can't hide the fact that tens of thousands of its citizens have been sickened and thousands of others have died. Nor will it be able to hide from its own people the damage its approach to the virus has inflicted on the Chinese economy and on China's grand global ambitions. China's economy could shrink for the first time in decades, and that could trigger a global recession. If you think the Chinese response deserves condemnation, the reaction of Iran's authoritarian mullahs may be even worse. While the Chinese sprung into action late but effectively, the Iranians are responding with a combination of arrogance and ignorance that is endangering not only their own people, but the rest of the world. Iranian leaders had boasted that the epidemic would not affect their country. Now it has more deaths than any other country outside China. Instead of helping doctors and nurses, the government seemed more concerned with controlling information than controlling the outbreak, and ordering medical workers to stay silent, even sending security agents to hospitals to enforce the secrecy. The pathetic excuse is that Iranian national security is at stake, when all the leaders are really worried about is saving their own hides. Ironically, their response may be doing the opposite. If it didn't involve people getting sick and dying, it would have been laughable to see a top Iranian health official telling Iranians on TV that the virus was being dealt with while he sweated and coughed on his colleagues. He had the virus. So do dozens of Iranian politicians, including the vice president, members of parliament, and a top advisor to the country's supreme leader who died. It is likely that all of Iran's top leadership has been exposed. The secrecy imposed by the government has led to utter confusion about how many cases exist and how many people have died. The BBC's Persian service reports that deaths could be 6 times higher than what Iran is admitting. Even the government's own numbers would seem to indicate a far higher mortality rate than anywhere else in the world. If that is the case and Iran has a more lethal strain of the virus, the underreporting of its outbreak is a threat to the world. We know even less about what's going on in North Korea. The hermit kingdom's isolation might work in its favor, but the totalitarian regime's denial of any COVID-19 cases strains credulity when it is surrounded by China and South Korea, both of which have major outbreaks. An epidemic in North Korea could have especially dire consequences because it has poor healthcare, a scarcity of medical supplies, and a population that has a high rate of malnutrition. South Korean news sources claim there could be thousands of cases, and human rights activists are accusing Kim Jong-un's regime of endangering lives by refusing to acknowledge the problem. With their secrecy and lack of transparency, these authoritarian regimes aren't just endangering the lives of their own citizens, they're endangering all of us. The international community must call them to task because allowing the virus to run rampant anywhere is a threat to people everywhere.